So, hello everyone. Just another check if you hear and see me well. Awesome, great. Welcome to our webinar regarding the CAN bus and reading CAN data. It's quite important webinar, I guess, for our partners community. Since the task of reading CAN data is very crucial nowadays, and yeah, this is why we actually holding this webinar from home. So this is a very important topic, and this is why we actually decided to make it to make this webinar happen, no matter whether we are locked down or not. So here we go today. So at the start of the webinar, let me ask you the question. So how many of you are using CAN data? So how many of you are reading CAN? Those who are using it, please make plus in the chat. Put a plus in the chat. All right, Stefan. So nobody else. Oh, so yeah, Vitaly, thanks, and Alexander, Gonzalo, awesome, great. And how many of you are using Galileosky for that CAN scanner? I mean, or yeah, not using any third-party equipment, just getting direct data from Canvas. So make some, put some emoji on the chat. Awesome. So Gonzalo knows how to use CAN scanner. Plus, is a good emoji. Anyway, then I guess for the most of you, the topic of today's webinar is very important because it adds extra value, extra savings for your customers, and extra data, which then could be could be used in different types of solutions for fleet management. Yes, I said CAN scanner, and this is one of the topics we're talking about, answering the question of Nicholas. Yeah, so let's go. Just start as usual. For some reasons I don't have my yeah, sorry. Small agenda on what we will talk about now. So what can we do with the CAN bus? So it's not only about trading, it's about also the controlling the car. This would be one of the topic of our webinar. What are the opportunities of working with Galileosky overall with CAN bus? I mean, how quick actually finding data is, and what tools and features we have in CAN scanner, which are new. So what's new with CAN scanner, if we say so? And another add-on to what we used to have, what we are having for some certain period of time, is getting data from two CAN buses. And this is another part of our conversation, which we will definitely come to as well. I will not remind you about the webinars room, so I guess most of you have already part in it, but once again, for those who have not, just small reminder, chat is for chatting between you guys, and for talking between us, questions of questions. So if you have any special questions which would like us to answer you, I have my colleague Nikolai to be he's online with us, and he will answer those questions that you will write in the questions tab. So he's more into expert in CAN bus. So in case you have some technical questions, deeply technical questions, he will definitely answer you over that part. I will just make a small presentation on what is CAN scanner. Yeah, here's thumbs up from the Nikolai in chat. I will just highlight a bit about CAN scanner feature, about what could be done with that, about controlling the vehicle with CAN bus. The technical, there will be a small introduction of the technical part, but then again, mostly we will talk about just overall CAN scanning and how you can save your customers money with that. Yeah, as usually, and most of you, I guess, know that the major problem for CAN is that each vehicle manufacturer, for some reasons, decide to send data in CAN bus as they want it to. So there are some standards actually, which is FMS, but for some reasons, the manufacturers they don't support them or support them only partially. So this is why we, as the fleet managers, as the fleet management providers, we are facing the issue that in order to get some important data from CAN bus, we should do something. And we have developed quite interesting tools for that, which become the life easier, which make life easier and become CAN scanner more affordable for the businesses. So, so what tasks overall could be solved when using CAN data? We can decode more than 30,000 parameters, and those are the parameters. This is the number which is actually described in FMS. So there are around 3,000 different parameters that might exist in the CAN bus and that might potentially be transmitted to the server. So each of them potentially might be extracted if they exist in one specific vehicle. But overall, FMS, the standard for CAN data, it includes around 3,000 parameters. So obviously, it's about sending the current parameters to the server. So what happens with the vehicle now? We can definitely send it to server, and afterwards, as usually, you can build reports based on data that arrives from the tracker to the software. And you can add it. You can add vehicle diagnostics to it. So not only about some crucial parameters about fuel, about RPM, about some extra data, which is definitely important for the customer. We can also make some vehicle diagnostics, including getting the error codes from the vehicle and just check vehicle health eventually. In addition, CAN scanning may help you to control driving style. So some parameters that might not be enough for controlling of driving style with the accelerometer only. You can also add some parameters which are being transmitted from the canvas. For example, if it rains and the rain sensor switches on in the vehicle, it will definitely change some parameter in CAN. So we can get this parameter and change driving style conditions based on the weather conditions actually. We can monitor what are the conditions in which the driver operates or in which the object is being operated. So, for example, we can check whether the driver is moving with the engine overheated or otherwise not being not having the enough temperature. Also, we can control the vehicle via CAN bus. So we can control central lock. We can control sometimes even the fuel supply. We can control some different parameters which are important for one specific project. And overall, we're able to come to fleet management system automation, which is what actually we are supposed to do. We are not only about GPS tracking, we're about some business processes of automatization, and here we can come to even fleet and vehicle automation. So in case if something happens, we can react by something. So coming to the tools, what kind of tools we have, and obviously when we talk about Galileosky and CAN bus in one sentence, we think about CAN scanner, which is our quite an exclusive technology for decrypting data from CAN bus, which I will probably demonstrate you a bit later. Then something new about Galileosky and CAN bus in one sentence is that we are ready to get data from two CAN buses simultaneously. With a new device, which is Galileosky 7X, we have the option to get data from the two CAN buses at the time. Sometimes there are several CANs in vehicle, and in one CAN bus there is one important information. In the second one, there is the other. The other tool which we have developed not so long ago is CAN bus logging. So it's very handy when you need to, when you want to actually get the log from CAN bus and not decrypt it while being in the vehicle, but make it while getting back to the office, for example. So to perform some actions inside the vehicle, get some log stored, and eventually get back to the office and to decrypt those parameters you have. And yeah, and vehicle control via CAN, we can send some commands to the CAN bus, and this is the extra part of our tools. CAN scanner. What's new about it? Probably most of you know that this is the tool which helps our partners to search desired parameters very fast. This kind of reverse engineering, when we create some action inside the vehicle and parse those messages, those bytes and bits that are being changed at the moment while we are performing those actions. But what it gives zero costs for any external devices such as CAN logs or some CAN interpreters, so which are actually dedicated just for that. We have one built-in solution that might give you the data about any vehicle. Any vehicle, by any vehicle, we're saying that any that actually transmitted data in CAN. So no matter what vehicle is, we are getting the raw data in the protocols, in J1939 and J1979 protocols, and are able to actually to parse those parameters that are important. And once we have decrypted those parameters, we are able to create the template for the group of units. So in case if the customer has quite standardized fleet of one specific vehicle or few specific vehicles, so by decrypting one vehicle, we having the opportunity to expand and to scale this script to the entire fleet. So only one scan is actually required for that. So how to read data outside the car, not being in the car? This is actually the answer. The answer is the CAN logger. You can use the car and work in a CAN scanner independently, not at the same time. So what should be done? you should store the log. I will then explain you live how it is done. But overall, you should just store the log while performing those actions inside the vehicle to create some zones, red, green, blue, depending on what you are doing. For example, when adding the fuel, you're making the log in the red zone. So when getting back to the office, you're having the opportunity to know that in the red, I was changing the fuel. So now, in this specific part of the log, I will be looking for a fuel only. So, and so on. The same log could be sent to us. So if you store this log describing what parameters, what color is for what parameter, and what was done exactly while you have been storing the log, we can help you with decryption. And the other thing that you should not underestimate, you can train your colleagues, your staff in protocol decryption. So just give them the log and say them, okay, find me those parameters. This is actually what Nikolai is doing with us. Yeah, we are quite experienced in this one already, even though we're not very technical guys. So then getting data from two CAN buses at once, and this is about the new device, the new range of products actually, Galileosky 7X, but 7X as the flagship device is the only one of the range that has two CAN buses simultaneously. So there are 4 overall inputs dedicated for CAN bus, 2 CAN H and 2 CAN L, and we can get data from different from 2 CAN buses at a time. In addition, it has Bluetooth on board, and as usual, it has EasyLogic programming, and this is another part of the device. So, based on since we have 2 CAN buses now, we have changed CAN scanner interface a bit. So in those changes that have been deployed, those who are using it, they see it, I guess, immediately. But those who are not, I will just stress out them a bit. Let me switch on the pointer. So here we have 2 CAN buses now. So we used to have only this part. Now we have added. So for each CAN bus, you can select different filters, different protocols. For each of CAN buses, you can choose different speed, you can choose different receive timeout and so on. So everything that you can do with the CAN bus, you can do with the second, and you can do it independently. So there is now something which is very which is the same for which should be the same for 2 CAN buses. They work absolutely independently. Here in the log part, you see that there are identifiers, and there is the mentioning that the data comes from the CAN 0 or from the CAN 1. The same, you can hide the information from CAN 0 or CAN 1 by just pressing the I mark, not just to switching off what the data you don't want to see manually line by line. So yeah, these are the major differences about CAN scanner interface, which are definitely very caused by launching second CAN line. But another thing which we have added just for the convenience of our partners, another thing, yeah, we have data comments transmitting in the bottom part for 2 CANs as well. But another thing which is not concerned with 2 CAN buses is this section, which is comments. Our partners have previously mentioned that it's not very convenient. When you find a parameter, you should write it somewhere in the notebook or somewhere else on the sheet of paper, that this ID with this byte is this parameter. It could be lost eventually, but this is and while scanning data, while decrypting all the desired parameters, there might be a mess. So this is why we have added the section for comments. So once you find one parameter in the line which is desired, you can put a comment there. But very important notice that the comment section is not saved. So you're not saving it in the device memory, you're not saving it on the configurator. It is done just for the process of decrypting, for increasing of convenience of the process of decrypting. And just once you have them all, just make a print screen or do something else if it's convenient for you, and it will be enough. But during the process, it just helps you to not to forget what parameter has been decrypted 5 parameters ago. So just for convenience. And for those who haven't seen CanLogger, I will probably make some live presentation a bit later. Those changes have also, I mean, 2 CAN buses changes have also caused the changes in EasyLogic. So as you might know, you can work with CAN bus in EasyLogic as well. And this is done for several reasons. So for example, when instead of sending the entire 32 bits of information to the server and spending 30 extra 30 bits when you need only 2, you can, for example, get 1 to 2 bits extracted from the message attached to the user tag, for example, and send it to the monitoring platform. Just as one of the solutions you might do. Also, it might help you when you create some logic for automation of the vehicle, for controlling the central lock and so on. But all in all, the major change is concerned with the number of CAN buses again. You see that there is a line in each part which is concerned with CAN bus in EasyLogic with the interface of CAN bus 0 or 1, and you may pick any interface in each and every block of EasyLogic and CAN bus. So I will not then probably stay for a very long time on this part. Just a few steps, the small descriptions of the steps of EasyLogic and the CAN bus. So starting with the initialization of CAN, actually the operation which starts getting data from CAN bus, then adding some CAN filter, not to get the entire log, but only to get a few messages which are important for you at the moment. Enable CAN reception in certain interface, parsing and decrypting several the single message in several parts, and eventually sending CAN message in certain tag. So anyway, yeah. I will then talk a little bit about this part as well, showing some examples. And for those who are interested, we can send some examples afterwards. But I will show you what might be done just a bit later. Yeah, CAN logger controls, the part which I have promised you to talk about a bit later. So once again, this is the tool which helps you to store the log while being in the vehicle, but to decrypt it afterwards. So it consists of several parts. First is the control board for the login. So there are a few important buttons which are launching the log, starting recording, deleting it, going message by message, going from the zone to zone, copying the certain message to the send part, downloading and loading the log to the local computer, or vice versa from the computer to the CAN logger. So this is actually the part for recording messages displayed. So here we have the time, ID, and the message itself, and the message caller recording itself. So once again, once you are performing some action, for example, switching the ignition on, switching ignition on, off, switching ignition on, switching ignition off, you might record it in certain color, for example, red. So when getting back to the office, you will have the opportunity to open the red part only and know that you have been switching on the ignition at in that part of the time. So you will have the opportunity to look for those parameters that are connected to switching on the ignition. Yeah, for each parameter you are looking for, you might pick the different color scheme, perform those actions that are important, and eventually know that this color is for A action, another color for B action, and so on. Eventually, we have a vast amount of CAN data to manage. We can manage the central log, and we can manage even the alarm system. We can even manage the windscreen wipers, the steering wheel, and even the multimedia. We know that we have the experience with some Jeep Wrangler, and there is even the data in CAN bus on which FM station and FM frequency, FM radio station the driver is listening. And by performing some command, we can change the station to the desired. For example, when coming to some object, the Wrangler should change the station to the local one because there's some important information is being transmitted. So even such tasks could be done with the CAN bus, and we can do that. And some overall principle of how can we control the vehicle via CAN bus, not only actually send data from CAN bus to the server, but also perform some control. The first part is actually not the very first. There should be something in front. We call it specialized tools for CAN diagnostics. Those are, for example, CAN hackers and some tools which are used in service centers for diagnostics of the CAN bus. They quite widespread, and I'm sure they could be sourced even on the local markets. And the idea there that they have some preset settings for performing some action inside the CAN bus, and by just clicking a few buttons in the interface of those things connected to the CAN bus, we can parse those messages in CAN scanner. So which means that we kind of sniffing the data they are sending to the CAN bus and just can perform it by ourselves on our device. So after it, we can create an easy logic algorithm for control and eventually allow sending messages to CAN, because they are not initially allowed. Because if you don't know how to use it, better not to do that. And unless you are very sure that this message will not affect the vehicle in any way, we recommend we actually recommend to come to it only when you are very sure that it is safe enough and this message will not harm anybody. So overall, how the central locking control algorithm is used, and this is actually the actual algorithm for locking the central lock of one of our one of my colleagues. The device is installed in his vehicle, and we have created the script, which is actually dedicated for locking the vehicle remotely and unlocking it as well with the Galileosky device. And as I mentioned, I will not really stick on this part as well because it's quite complicated one. But in case you are interested in it, just put a plus on the chat, and we will send you the example of the script with some explanations therefore afterwards. So with this type of algorithm, we can control any action of not actually any, but many different parts of the vehicle, including central lock, headlights, even the ignition, and some other parts for diagnostics. All right, there are a few requests. So Nikolai, I guess you will have a lot of explanation afterwards. And overall, it might look like that. So because, yeah, as I said, on the first page, there was just the first one for central lock. There could be some different parameters that might be controlled. And the overall look of the script might be this. It looks quite complicated from the first side, but eventually we go in details one by one. It will be more comprehensive afterwards. All right, I will not stay in this one. We are almost already spent half an hour, but I wanted to show you CAN scanner as I understand that most of you haven't even used it before, or used it but not that much. And just my goal here is to show you how easy it is. So let me switch to presentation of my screen. It takes so long time. Okay. Just a few seconds. Anyway, are there any some questions so far? Not yet. Probably, yeah. We have a first question: how to check parameters in vehicle without CAN bus? Well, there are a lot of ways. There are a lot of. It actually depends what kind of parameters do you want to check. Some of them are could be controlled by themselves. I mean, without even any sensors. For example, such parameters as speed, or some parameters like moving, they could be checked definitely without any sensors, and the device can transmit it initially, so without any extra work. Some parameters could be checked only with some external sensors. For example, fuel level sensors, if you talk about the fuel. Or not the capacity fuel level sensor, but for example, analog fuel level sensor which transmit the analog signal, which could be calibrated into the level. There are a lot of ways. The question from Mr. Mazen could be: do you have a list of vehicles you know the scanner works on and the parameters they read? Yes, we do. And in case you are interested in certain vehicles, you can send us the request. We will check throughout our CAN bus, through our database, and we'll tell you whether we have this information or not. Eventually, yeah, there are some lists, and we can send the scripts which are ready, and so on. All right, I'm ready with my presentation of CAN scanner feature. I'm changing to our configurator. Just tell me if you see in the chat, not a plus, if you see my configurator on the screen. Do you see my screen so far? All right, some of you yes, some of you no. I guess it will be downloaded soon. All right, now do you see my configurator? All right, great, awesome. So here we go. Here we have the CAN scanner tool. Unfortunately, as I mentioned, we are working from home, and we are recommending you to do the same, just to keep safe, to stop that virus spreading. and to not to harm our elderly relatives and closest. So this is how our CAN scanner works. I don't have any emulator for CAN with me, but what I will do, I will launch and show you how you can use CAN logger in this part. Just this part, as I mentioned, we have initially stored some log. I will download it right now, and we will launch it. So, all right, here we have some stored log, and we have some data coming throughout the canvas. And as I mentioned, we have stored some certain zones: red, green, blue, and so on. Let me start from the beginning. With the red, for example, let us have some example. In the red, we have steering wheel and the user, the driver, who was driving the vehicle, was turning it left, right, left, right. While doing that, they were storing the data on with the red. So once we will see the red zone, we have put the red zone into repeat, so it will start over once it is finished. Now we can look for the parameter which is being changed at the moment. There are a few of them, but on the steering wheel we can assume that it's being turned left and right, left and right. It means that at some point of time, when the lock starts, it will have 0, but then it will either negative or positive, and then get back to negative or positive. So let's try to look for the parameters. If you see my screen well enough, for those parameters that are being changed in the moment. There are a few of them actually. Here we have the parameter that is being changed, and it is highlighted in red, so it's quite visible. This parameter in this identificator is 2 bytes. They are being changed. This one have changed, but I don't think that is steering wheel because it is being changed so rarely. This one as well is too rare to be changed. This one, this, and this byte. I guess nothing else might be steering wheel in this one, but let's look at how they do and what they are doing, those parameters, how they are being changed. So here, for example, in the first identificator 316, we see that the value here is being changed constantly and doesn't reach 0 at any time, at any period of time. Let's remove here and look at this byte. Well, it seems so, but it's being changed too frequently. I don't think that someone is able to turn the steering wheel so fast. Let's watch at these 6 bits. All right, it stands still. Starts, clock has been started. It comes to negative and comes to positive again. So seems that this is the parameter that we've been looking for. Let's change from signed and label engine. Is there something that had to be changed? Well, at least it seems so. We can therefore check, being in the vehicle, if it is the parameter which is being changed when we will be on site with the customer. We might plug in the CAN bus and make some. Oh yeah, here we have it's negative because, for example, it was turned left and it's right. It's positive. So yeah, I assume that this parameter is the steering wheel. have a few time left, so I will try not to spend too much time on this one and look for one parameter which is probably is most important for us, for all of us. Then I will look for a fuel level. So let's look for the fuel level. It's the light green zone. We will switch. This is just green. This is blue that comes for something else. Yeah, this is the light green, right? Yeah, this is the light green, comes after orange. Okay, so we are looking for one parameter, which is the fuel. In the task, it said that fueling is done by 30%, and afterwards the draining is done by 50%. At that period of time, the user was logging the data in the light green zone. So let's look. This is definitely not a. This is definitely not a fuel level, because it was changing and it's changing now. Well, I think that it was fueling. I think there was some steady growth to some certain amount, draining the reverse thing. So I think that the data will increase steadily for some certain period of time, and then decrease steadily for another time. So here I see this byte is being just fluctuating back and forth. So this one is too small value, and this is definitely not a fuel level. This one as well. This one is not a fuel level either. I don't think so. So here the change is too slow for fueling. Here something looks like that. So here we 100. We see the 100. 100 might be the percentage, but yeah, there comes the drainage by 50% something, but 60%. Task was 50. Anyway, something close to that. If it's so, then we should see the fueling afterwards, or let's see the timestamp and wait while the light green zone will be started over. Okay, it started over. We should see the fueling now. Yes, it goes. And now should be the drainage. No, not a fueling. And it's fueled to 100%. All right, anyway. Yeah, so I assume that the first byte from the left of the identifier 44C is the fuel level. We can therefore check it. So when the driver is in the vehicle, we can ask them about what percentage of the fuel is now in the tank, and just check what is it corresponds to the value here, and just or ask them for another fuel. So yeah, here we have a very fast, like 5 minutes, decryption of 2 parameters of our CAN bus. Definitely in real life, there will be a bit more parameters in the CAN bus, in the CAN log, but but just assuming certain logic of the parameters change, we can get rid of most of them. More than that, amongst those parts that are very handy for us, we have another setting here. So here, by default, we have each parameter highlighted in red, which is being changed more frequently than once in 3 seconds. But here we have reverse setting. We we can refuse highlighting those parameters that are not being changed for 6 seconds. It is convenient, for example, when you're trying to look for some discrete parts of discrete parameters of the canvas. For example, headlights, seat belt, turning lights, or something like that. So by just you just perform some action once in 7 seconds, for example, and it will be highlighted here. For example, we see here that this bit is being changed more frequently that less frequently, I mean, than 6 seconds. So just switch on the headlight, wait for 6 seconds, switch off the headlight. It will be highlighted in red. Then wait for another 6 seconds, switch on it again. It will be again highlighted red. And those parameters that are moving constantly, that are being changed frequently, they will not be highlighted. So we will not just mess it up with us, and they will not interfere in our decrypting process. So overall, it looks like that. So quite easy, quite understanding. We have few settings here as well, which I will not stress out today, because my main goal was to share with you the overall picture of CAN scanner tool and the CAN logger, and how you can use it and how you can benefit from it. For those of you who are already using it and they're happy users, I'm sure, of the CAN scanner feature, we will send additional information and additional templates of the scripts on how to send the commands to the CAN bus for EasyLogic. But then again, I guess that's it for today. If there are any questions which are not yet been answered by Nikolai, let me answer it from myself. All right. Yeah, I see that Nikolai has been answering in chat. I will just pronounce some of his answers in voice. The question was from Mr. Vamsi Krishna Varnasi. If the CAN scanner will scan the data from CAN bus from all vehicles model manufacturers all over the world, and Nikolai answered, yes, we can scan data this way from any vehicle in the world, in case they have CAN bus, and if in case they have those parameters transmitted in CAN bus. Just don't, to understand here, we refer to the CAN bus to the protocols which are J1939 and J1979. Protocols like J1708 and K-line, for example, they are not CAN bus in the sense of CAN bus. So they're not exactly, they have not the same physics, so they are connected through different physical ports, so we don't refer to them. So we're talking only about CAN bus, which are J1939 and J1979. All right. Yeah, there is active answering in the question box, in the question part, and I will then again pronounce some of the answers in voice. Okay, so the question from Mr. Gonzalo Galindo, if we need to request the parameters from CAN bus, how do you know if we are asking them right, if we are sending the correct request? Should there be a valid response? Yes, the valid response should come after we request the correct command. So once we set the command which is understood by the vehicle, it will send us the request that it is correct. Mr. Mazenka B has asked for a specific sequence of events. Yeah, just connect the vehicle to the canvas, the device to the vehicle's canvas. Start the CAN scanner and find those parameters in the log. Then this part which I have not described, you can attach those parameters to the certain tag of the protocol which will be transmitted to the server. So you can see the canvas scanner in real time in our notebook within the car. Yes, the future webinar, and this is actually what we have planned to do, but due to the coronavirus issue, we actually try not to get out of our homes without reason. Obviously, getting the information to our partners is a reason, but still we don't want to take the unnecessary risk. One of the future webinars which we will have will be for the live data decryption. So we will be in the vehicle with a notebook showing live how we get the parameters from the real vehicle. This is what we are having in our plans. Mr. Saleh Mohammed mentioned that in the previous versions of the configurator, it was scanning automatically. We didn't have to assume for the parameters. The same here. If we choose the FMS protocol, which is the standard protocol, we will decrypt those parameters that are standardized and are being transmitted in FMS protocol within the vehicle automatically. So we will not have to do that decryption. So, but unfortunately, not all of the vehicles in the world are using FMS entirely. So they are using FMS either partially or not using it at all. So this is why sometimes we have to count this procedure, and we have to count this tool because it's the only one and only thing that we can do. Okay, Nicola will answer the question from Mr. Sodabrata Karkun. In the question tab, I guess. I will move to the chat tab at the moment. Okay. The comment, actually, not a question, from Alexander Milankovich, that it would be great if you could export the CAN parameters from log to Excel with time, KNID, and value. Probably yes, we agree with that, but at the moment we only store the log in the rec file .rec, which could be opened only with the configurator. The question from Mr. Sodratikar-Kun concerning can integrate video camera with GPS device to get live feed via GPS tracking software. We can get connected the photo camera, but this is not the part of this conversation, I guess, today webinar, I guess. So you can connect photo cameras to the device and transmit snapshots due to event or due to schedule. All right, and Nicola answered the question about if you can use CAN without ECU. No, we can, because yeah, it is installed by the camera manufacturer. You cannot do that. All right. I guess there are no questions anymore. We received all the classes for those who want to have the template and the example of the controlling algorithm. In case you have any certain questions which we have not answered yet, I guess we will finish by today. Thank you for your time. Thank you for joining us today. You know that it's very harsh time for the entire industry, and for the entire market, actually, not only for the quick management, but for everyone. And we are